Hello, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of Game and Interactive Media Design. This is the third time I've done this video because I've made a number of mistakes, and hopefully I won't make those mistakes again. I want to model the top, and I've actually been having a little bit of fun trying to figure out the best way, and I think I've come up with a way I like now. And so we're going to go through this together. Number one, I am going to isolate a single stave because I'm going to reuse that as my base object to model the top planks. I'm going to tap W to move it, and I'm going to shift drag this entire barrel to make a copy of it. I will call this top 001. Now it still looks like a barrel, but I'm going to go to my Modify tab, and I'm going to delete by clicking this trash can. I'm going to delete the top thing, the first bend and the second bend. So now I have this stave here, single stave. I'm going to keep the turbo smooth, obviously, in the edit poly in the box. But what I want to do is just make sure that pivot point is centered to itself. So I'm going to say, go to hierarchy, effect pivot only, center to object, of course, uncheck effect pivot only. I'm going to tap E and I'm going to rotate it in this direction, 90 degrees. Let go, great. I'm gonna center it to itself. And I'm gonna click F so that just to make sure it's up at the top of the barrel, and tap T. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is make the top out of 4 different planks. These are gonna be wide planks, and that's just what I choose to make my life easier. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna click on the Modify tab, and I'm gonna go down to the box, the very first. It's primitive bottom of the stack. It's going to warn me, yes, I'm not going to screw it up, I promise. I'm just going to make the width about 30 centimeters. No, exactly 30 centimeters. And I'm going to place it roughly here. And I'm going to make 3 copies of this. So I'm going to go into F3 wireframe mode, hold down Shift, move it over here, and to about there. Again, I want a tiny little space, let go. I'm going to make 3 copies, so I have 4 total. Looks like that. The next thing I'm going to do is attach them all together, so I don't care which one of these tops I select. I'm going to add an edit poly on top. You already know how to attach objects together. Use the attach tool. Clicky, clicky, clicky. Undo attach. I want to center the pivot point to the center of this object, so it's exactly in the center. So I'm going to go to effect pivot only in the hierarchy, center to object, yay. And the next thing I want to do is make sure this object is centered to the barrel. Actually, you know, I can just right click the X and Y in my movement tool. Okay, now there's something I want you to notice. I don't know why this is, but if I go into my T-top view, notice that these staves, like the splitting in this stave doesn't start. It doesn't go 90 degrees orthogonal. Now, does that matter? Probably not, but for some reason it bothers me. Like I want this corner here to be directly going up and down, not slightly off a few degrees. So what I'm going to do is rotate the barrel slightly. And I'm going to do that by right-clicking the rotation tool while I have my barrel selected. And I'm going to use an offset Z. So right now, well, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to click on, actually it doesn't matter, you're right. It doesn't matter which Z I choose to rotate. I'm just going to click the spinner once. And, oh, did I? Yes, I'm going to click the spinner once. And I'm going to click it. Notice it's clicking it, it's offsetting it a 1/10 of a degree every single time. I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm just going to click that until that aligns perfectly. I'm going to tap F3. I'm actually going to isolate my barrel. So when I zoom in there, I can see if this is actually aligning, and it's not quite aligned yet. There. Is that perfectly aligned? Almost as perfect as one could get. Almost as perfect as one can get. Now that line there isn't quite perfect. But you know what? I think we're going to accept this. We are going to accept it. All right, you'll see why this is important in a little bit. So again, what I ended up doing was just rotating it -2.3 degrees. Yay. I'm going to right click and isolate. And so now that gives me my top. Okay, there. Look at it right now. Now this edge goes directly through this slot here. It'll just make modeling and materials a little bit better. Look at this thing I've noticed. I didn't notice this before. My barrel top has a material here that shouldn't be. This is the metal material, and I don't want that. Does yours have that? If so, I'm going to show you one quick thing. I'm going to do it later. I'll do it later. Right now, what I want to do is make the top piece. Okay, and I'm going to do that by using a Boolean tool. Let me show you what Boolean does. If I have a box that I've made, and I have, oh, let's use a teapot. I'll use a teapot. That's kind of cool. And I'm going to just place this in the center. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let's use a line and like really center it. Center to center. Yes, yes, yes. Let's even do Z. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's actually make the teapot even bigger. There. Now, if I have this, and I want to make this one object, I want to combine these into just one object, I can select this box, go to compound objects, and compound objects are single objects made from multiple objects, and I'm going to do a ProBoolean, and Boolean is basically an addition or subtraction tool. And so I'm going to do union, and I'm going to start picking, and I'm going to pick what I want to union that box to, and I can click the teapot. Huh. Oh, I know why I did that. Sorry, teapot was a bad example. Ugh. Right click, delete that. Because the teapot is actually made from different objects. Okay, this will make more sense with a sphere. It won't be as fun because it's not like a fun teapot. Just note the reason why it wasn't working the way I wanted it to work was because the teapot is made out of different stuff. Okay, so we have this sphere kind of embedded into this box, right? But if I want to make those an actual compound object or single object, I'm going to click ProBoolean, add union, and I'm going to add the sphere to the box. When I do that, it actually adds that sphere, and it adds geometry. Before that, there was no line here. Like, there's no geometry here. There's no vertex here, or a line here. It's just what's called floating geometry. Well, sometimes you don't care about that, but if I want that to be actual geometry, now there's lines made, right? Well, here's where it gets even cooler. I'm going to hit Control Z. We can do an intersection. And now that's saying wherever the sphere and the box intersect, that's what I want to keep, right? So that's that shape. You could also do a subtraction. So I have the box selected and I want to subtract the sphere from it. Then we get this cool shape here. Yay. Those are the three I'm going to show. Union, intersection, subtraction. I'm going to just delete these objects now. In order to do that for here, remember why the teapot didn't work for me? Because it was made out of multiple materials, or multiple objects. The same thing will happen with the barrel. So what I found was I had to actually create a new shape to use instead of using the barrel. So the shape I'm going to be using is a standard primitive, and it's the cone. Go ahead, enable cone, draw out your cone, and notice it has a new more steps than just the box, because we have to give it a bottom radius, a height, and then a top radius. And then, of course, 0 radius for the top is a cone. Larger is what we're going to do. We're going to basically simulate the shape of this barrel here. So just draw out the cone any way you want. Go into front mode, right-click, go into move mode, and like move it to the top here. give it a height that's really a little bit bigger than your piece. We're not too much bigger, but you know, enough. We definitely want it to be taller than the piece just so we don't have any accidental Boolean strays. Okay, now orbit around. Now the next thing we want to do is center this cone we just made to the barrel. And so I'm going to want to use the alignment tool. When the cone is selected, align it to the barrel. And we're not going to align it to Z, right? So unclick Z, and center to center is what we want, and say OK. Now we can go back into front view, and we can just look at the side here. And because it's aligned in the center, anything we align with the left side is going to work up with the right side. So I'm going to hold down Alt while I left click and drag radius 1. I'm holding down Alt because with Alt held down, you can actually get an extremely precise measurement. If I did not hold Alt down, watch, I'm not holding Alt down. Sometimes it doesn't go exactly where you want it. So holding down Alt just allows me, just makes even a more modification. Yay. Let go. Same thing with radius 1. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. Radius 1, whoops, radius 2, I mean, sorry. There we go. Like that. I'm going to hit F3. Yeah, this is maybe where we want it. Okay. Now, here's why I wanted to turn this barrel those few degrees. And that I want the cone to have 20 segments. Yours might have had like 16 when you started. Give it 20 segments. And you can see that those segments will align with the 20 barrel sides. Should be almost exactly. Let's go into top mode. Almost exactly. You know what? I'm going to change the... No, that's good. Yeah. So you'll see if I had, you know, 19 sides for the cone, these edges would not line up, right? So I'm going to set 20 because that's how many staves we have. And now these corners should align pretty much to the stave corners. That's what I wanted. And you know what? I do want those to be slightly... indented just a little bit more. So I'm going to hold down Alt. Probably about there, probably about there. That should be perfect. Once I have that, I'm going to I'm going to select my top. Select my cone. Oh, control click, select my top. So I've got my top and my cone selected. Right click, isolate selection. I'm going to select I'm just doing that so I don't get confused with barrel. I'm going to select my top piece here, go into create mode, geometry, compound objects, ProBoolean. I'm going to grab the intersection, start picking, and select that cone, and that's going to give me this piece here. Whoops. I'm going to disable start picking and right click and say end isolate. And now I have the top of my barrel and the barrel, and it looks pretty good, I think. There, that's what it looks like. And these lines are perfectly in sync with each other. Great job. Okay, the next one we'll actually look at mirroring the top to be down at the bottom because we don't have a bottom section yet. Okay, bye!